Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's edition of the Mighty Drive Show. My name is Tulyahabwe, and as always, we decided that we'll be coming here every single morning, talk about issues some people call of national importance, issues that are happening in communities, so we find some solution or share knowledge on some of those practices and maybe derive best practices from some of those conversations. So today, we have come here with people I think they both have been here before. But today's discussion is entirely going to hinge on the East African crude oil pipeline, and obviously, if time allows, we'll talk about the COP28, the Conference of Parties, if you like, that recently concluded in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. And what are the implications? What is it that we should expect from COP27? Has there been any developments, and what is it that we're building on moving forward? So that and much more is what we're going to be discussing today, and I am going to invite my guests, of course, to say hello to you, and then we'll get right into it. Good morning, Counsel.
Good morning. It's always a delight for me to join this wonderful morning Dig Talk team to discuss and dissect matters of national and international and regional interest.
Thank you. Thank you for always making time and hitting the call when we make it. And you are also Counsel, I believe.
Yes.
Please say hello.
Good morning to our viewers and listeners out there. My name is Kusingura Anthony. I'm an advocate of the High Court and a budding advocate for housing rights and land rights in the country.
Please smile for the viewers.
That's very important.
You know, matters as we are in this situation, the matters under the discussion are not all that appeasing, so sometimes it takes the smile out of our faces. But that notwithstanding, we shall endeavor to put up a smile.
We need to know that what we're working to, we have some faith that it will also yield some results, so then we can smile. But anyways, to begin with, the East African, the last time we had you, Counsel Eron, here, we also, I think, were talking about environmental issues. And you have been one of those people who have been vocal about the eco, particularly the hashtag Stop ECOP. How far are you with that campaign?
ECOP has not started contrary to the promises, so the campaign to stop it has, to that extent, succeeded. But it is slated to start, and whereas we wanted to stop even more, another route or the plan B is to ensure that if it goes ahead with minimal damage. But why we want to stop EACOP is because it is an environmental disaster. It's a climate bomb. It will contribute to the inflaming, burning, and incineration of planet Earth. It is a danger to our health and our lives, but most importantly, the lives of all people, all inhabitants of the world. It distorts our climate. It is going to injure our biodiversity. It is going to contribute to pollution. It will lead to people actually dying, and it will frustrate the attempts of the global community to stem the climate crisis. It has things like spills. It will result in in human rights degradations, and before it starts going, already they are trying to bully everyone around the EACOP path, including the judiciary. You will remember that because Total is involved, the judiciary in 4 days had decided to dispossess many people over many acres of land in that area by the judiciary. I mean, one judge in Hoima, that is Jesse Rujema, to be particular, Byarahanga. So Total could be to Uganda what Shell became to the Ogon people. It is not something far-fetched. People die when we talk about the oil curse. The Ogon land has never recovered. People died, human rights defenders, and also communities were decimated by pollution, by spills, and by the sheer bullying and muzzling of alternative voices just because of their oil experimentation, which is profitable to those involved, to the companies, and to their government conspirators co-accused in crime, in ecocide. But to the communities where these things happen, they are devastated. There is a reason why the war never stops in Congo, why guns are blazing in southern Sudan, and why Nigeria is not a model of oil exploration.
Okay. First, before I'll also have to get his introduction first, and then I have some questions, especially about the natural resources as a whole, and if it's just the problem of the African countries, or it's what is it that we do with it? Because normally any other country would feel like this is an opportunity to grow or utilize that resource for a better good. But on the other side, on the African continent, we seem to be doing the complete opposite. What is it that went wrong? Counsel, EACOP is here. There's been that campaign, Stop EACOP. It has been around, has been in Uganda, it has moved across borders, I think in most countries actually.
It was at COP.
Yeah, even at COP, yes, I saw people with Stop EACOP, they had placards and all of this. Discussions are happening. Do you see any progress in that regard? Because even when it hasn't, EACOP hasn't started as yet,
the damage has started.
Damage has started, but also it doesn't seem that the campaign is going to contain the progress, even as we are now. The progress seem like they seem to be working towards beginning and securing resources that need to begin. Do you think this campaign is going to, how do you see this campaign progressing amidst all of this?
Thank you. Issues of stopping EACOP have been here for a while. The civil society, we've tried our level best to assert the dangers of exploration into this field. Right from oil in itself, from its spills and so forth, the chemical components. But also we've talked about its adverse effects in the location where the exploration intends to be carried out. Now, it has not yet come. That is the fact, because it has not yet started. But its effects are already felt. Mm-hmm. People are already being dispossessed of their land, where they have their settlements, where their great-grandfathers used to stay, where they call homes. Places of such a nature, you cannot attach an economic value to it. The effects of ECOP, when you associate them to the socio-economic livelihood of the persons affected, they have grave effects. Now, ECOP in itself, by the leaders that we have, their intentions or their interests, it will come at the end, because the political will want it to come, and the society always is driven by those ones who lead it. So we can advocate for better, but what chances do we have to have that better come? They are very minimal. So what we're trying to do is to inform about the effects of what they are trying or dying to bring to us, so that at least we can go on minimizing the damage. Okay? So ECOP will finally be here. That is without doubt, because the political setup we have want it to be here. They are the ones who sign and bind this country into whichever agreements they choose. But then we need to be aware of the adverse effects, which we've already started seeing. Recently, not a few days ago, we've had massive evictions in the Albertine region. Recently, there was an order by a high court judge, a court of record, giving an order allowing government to evict persons from their land simply because these persons have refused to agree on the meager monies allotted to them as compensation. The law is clear. There are various means you can, you have to poke through to ensure that you get things in a due process, what we call due process, in a proper manner. But all those were averted. We have a system that is meant to curtail the interests of the persons on the ground for the interests of those who have the influence. So we want to talk about ECOP, whether it will come or not. That shouldn't, I think, in my opinion, be...
it's not a question.
It is not a question. It will come. But at what cost?
So let me ask a little bit, and one I hope Counsel will also feed into. You know, there's a Stop ECOP campaign, but we sort of all know, even the people who are like very, very grounded into this campaign also know that the ECOP will actually come.
Yes, please.
So why are we doing the campaign? Why are we not saying, look, we are focusing on the human rights, we're focusing on the compensation, we're focusing on equal distribution of resources, we're focusing on jobs and you know, fairness in distribution of those jobs, because
we can't endorse a wrong, dangerous project simply because there is some inevitability about it.
Except it still happens. So what is it?
No, you see, we have a moral and legal obligation, and although the odds are tipped against us, it's not that we are faithless. Because, for example, they are failing to raise the adequate financing for it. Financiers are one by one jumping ship. Insurance companies are pressuring them. So it's not that they are having it all they want. There is a lot of pressure we have exerted on them. They are panicking. That's why they don't even want to follow the laws of the land. If you are a government and you don't want to follow your own laws, then what's that? You're panicking. So whereas they are more powerful, I mean, it's international finance, they have all the money in the world and all the guns in the world, but they fear the truth. It's not like it's still, we are in a 90 minutes are not yet over. You get me? You saw how Man City drew over the weekend. We thought this is going to be an easy walk over Crystal Palace. No sooner were we into the dying minutes than we see a hope goal, then an equalizer. So, or even when you know that the other team is big, there can be an upset. It might be 20-80, but then the players, we must work hard and sweat it out and ensure that while that ideally we stop ECOP, but if we can't stop it, then it goes in, like he said, with minimal damage.
Do you think you stand more chances advocating for the entire stop or on particular issues that is within the
We don't need to divide our campaign. And we don't lose anything by saying, let's stop ECOP, by telling the truth, because we don't need anyone to die because of our hunger for oil. We don't need a forest to go. We don't need our lakes and rivers drenched in toxins, in chemicals that he was talking about. So we cannot pretend that we want that. So that we don't want. You get me? And it is inevitable if ECOP starts. However, we are saying that since it is likely to start, should it go ahead? So we are saying we don't want it, but if it's going to go ahead, then we must hold it to the most illuminating light possible that we can find. And that's simply what we're doing. But we refuse a dichotomy of a campaign that we have to choose between stopping ECOP and trying to ensure that there are minimal risks to it. No, it is one campaign. We are stopping ECOP. If we fail, then like you're aiming for the moon, if you fail, you fall on the stars. The most important thing for communities, for Uganda, for planet is no ECOP. If it's going to happen, then you can't be a student in the class that you're not aiming at 100, but how many get it?
See,
you get me? You have to work for 100 if you're a brilliant student. You leave those other average types to work for 50. But a brilliant student, you work for 100, then get 90, get 80. That's how we get the distinctions.
Okay, here is the difference though. As checking statistics from some carbon tracker saying that Africa as a whole has a potential for over 39% of the renewable energy in the whole world, but it receives all, including Africa and the Middle East, they receive only about 2% investment from the global investment center renewable energy. With that in perspective, do you see the hope?
Why don't we work on changing that?
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I do agree with you.
And we are advocating, we are pushing against climate injustice. We are pushing against renewables injustice. We're even pushing that that's the whole point of a just transition. In fact, we want it fair, fast, and funded.
Funded by who?
Funded by the political...
Because the problem is this. The multinationals
by both private capital and public capital, because the biggest funding, I believe, is actually public from taxpayers, although considerable is also the private funding from banks and so on and so forth. So we need to align the political climate to ensure that now we have agreed, let's abandon fossil fuels, let's go for renewables, and let's ensure that there is enough investment. The world is not a fair place. Indeed, there is an unfairness. First of all, we are the least contributors to the climate crisis, but we are the worst victims of it. Even when the investments into renewables is coming, the West always gets the best out of the rest. So we are getting the worst out of it in terms of the minimal investments. Yet we have the bigger potential. For Africa has the biggest renewable potential in the world, but it is not being funded. So we need governments across the world to fund it. Why? If it is funded, Africa becomes a solution, because it has the potential to be a climate leader in solving the climate crisis because of its upper hand in renewables. But we need enough funding in this sector so that we can effectively abandon the fossil fuels. So it's an injustice or justice question. We can understand it, but we cannot be in this 21st century still discussing fossil fuels. Let the dead rest. Did you know that oil comes from the dead?
I had. Yeah.
No, you know, now I'm here, I'm telling you. Yes, it comes from decomposition of life, of human beings to start with, but also animals, plants.
Every living.
Yeah, that is fossil fuels over many. So our ancestors are the ones we are burning when we are burning fossil fuels.
You wanted to add a comment?
Now, maybe to add on on what my brother has stated. Yes, it's true. The ECOP will come, but we cannot sit down, lay down our tools, and say, "Okay, we've surrendered.
No, not
let
that
whatever comes."
For some of us, as an individual, I don't want to represent very many people. I feel like ECOP is still going to happen.
True.
Why? How would it be that we look at all of these? Say, for example, if it's a distribution of investment, how much everyone should put in. What is it that a country should get?
If you face the lion, would you fight it?
I don't.
If you face the lion, would you fight it? Yes, the answer is yes, and yet you are likely to lose.
Yes.
You get me?
That's true.
Yes.
ECOP
But
is
I'd also
a
focus
lion.
on the tactics that would make me win.
Exactly.
If I would not kill it entirely. Which is why I'm saying that the things
But
that
you see,
might be in our grasp
the tactics
are
that will help you
regular.
disable a lion into running are the ones that you aim at killing it. If you aim at injuring it, it will just eat you for a meal. You must aim at killing a lion. So that somehow, if you can't kill it, then it will realize that this prey is not exactly run-of-the-mill prey. I better avoid injury and go for some simpler prey, which has already surrendered. The lion doesn't want to fight with you. So if you put up a fight, it's likely to give up. Indeed, the example of a lion is very good because a lion wants to do quickly ambush and at your most vulnerable to hold you in the neck, wherever, kill you, and if you delay, if you delay it, it will even retreat or change its mind. It's not that you are powerful, more powerful than the lion. It's that the lion has weighed its
prey.
Yes,
it's
and
prey.
said, no, why should I fight for a whole hour? So ECOP is that lion against our climate, against our environment, against our fresh water, against our lives, against our health, against the atmosphere, its cleanness and freedom from pollution. And we have to fight it with all we have got and hoping that we stop it. But if we can't stop it, then we ensure that we throw it down and also throw it and trim it of the excess fat of its injustice, of its pollution and its spills.
Distribution. Okay.
Yes.
And I wanted also to ask Elizabeth Kusingura about I think there's some sort of performance standards, if I'm not mistaken. Have you sort of engaged all of these stakeholders about the performance to make sure that in the event that it happens, as you say, you are able to trim it of its fat, as Counsel Eron has put it?
In our advocacy against the ECOP, okay, we've tried to our level best to be open, to highlight the dangers. Okay, first is letting everyone appreciate the effects, the impact ECOP is going to have, not it's likely to have. We've already foreseen what it is going to, because projects of this nature have happened to other places, other countries of our dimension. Here in Africa, we've had cases in Nigeria where we have oil spills which have affected their water systems, which has affected their housing sectors, and so forth. Now, you look at a place like DRC, where conflicts are always there. So, when we look at all the impacts and we highlight them, tone them down one by one, then you explain to these persons that if we continue this line without having a viable alternative, we are going to end up in the same place. That is what ECOP is all about. We are saying, please don't drag us to hell. We've already seen other persons go there. Why should we go there? Can't we have alternatives? Can't we have renewable energy as the ultimate alternative to save us from all this catastrophe? So there is no yardstick. We cannot sit down and say we should measure whether we are knee deep in hell or we are 1 centimeter in hell. Going with ECOP, we have one direction: disaster. Can we have the alternative? What is that alternative? Can we choose to go by renewable energy? Because I've worked with persons largely affected by housing crisis in this country. Now, in our country, we have a housing deficit. Even when there has been less land conflicts, we have these small conflicts of people fighting over the land, who is owning this, who is owning the other. But now then you are going to exacerbate the situation by also having health issues coming and getting attached to a housing crisis. Because once you get oil spills, you have a disruption with the water table because of your oil. Now, you already have a dire housing crisis. You're getting your oil spills back into the crisis. What are you looking for? That is the question. You already see the alternative, which is viable, and it is practical, because Africa, and Uganda in particular, we are blessed with the resources to enable us to migrate to renewable energy. We are a blessed country. But we are not choosing that path because a few persons in the leadership, in our leadership, have interests. And they are the ones who speak purportedly for all of us.
Yeah, they do.
So they are dragging us into disaster for their personal benefits. And because of that, if we are to save ourselves, we must have that hope that as long as we keep highlighting these effects, one, we live to hope that maybe these wrong elements will one day wake up on the right side of the bed and say, wait a minute, much as we are doing this, it is disaster. The Christians sometimes have this, sometimes you go to church, they say, gunsinze, gunsinze. Gunsinze did that. Maybe they will reach that point of realization that what we are getting into is not the right thing. Let's take the right path.
I hope they follow. And actually, on that very one, there's, I think it was during COP28, our Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Rosnan Kabir, said, tweeted this: to tell us to stop fossil fuels is an insult. It's like you are telling Uganda to stay in poverty. We could accept a long-term phase-out if it's made clear that development nations can exploit their resources in the near term, while wealthy long-term producers quit. She says, first in, first out, and we will be happy to be the last ones to exit fossil fuels. With that, do you feel like...
That is myopic.
Do you feel like there's direction, especially,
it's
and will
in the tone of Jim was saying nothing. When we are in a crisis, it's not about finger pointing. If your house is on fire, you run. You can't start saying that I'm not the one. You can't even start finding out who caused the fire.
No.
It's a kind of illogical, and I'm ashamed that that minister is coming from the same continent as I, who thinks that in the middle of a crisis, that as people are drowning, you should ask over who gave us this boat. No, that is a sign, exercise your swimming skills to save as many people as you can. We are in a climate crisis. That is nonsense from our minister. But I wanted to add something from to the protocols, the protocols. For example, there are World Bank's protocols,
the standards,
IFC protocols, and other protocols. But let's even start with the local protocols. They are supposed to respect our laws, starting with the Constitution. They are not respecting it. They are supposed to give people adequate, fair, and prompt compensation.
Yes.
They don't want that.